This woman named Carmina Koppel Anderson, who went by Nina, was born in 1930. She was only 42 when she died in 1973. Nina got married to a guy named Charles Leroy Anderson, and it was a whirlwind romance because they got married just 9 days before she died. They lived in a camper trailer in Wrist Canyon, Colorado, with Nina's 2 young daughters. On February 21st of 1973, Nina was found dead in the trailer. Her husband Charles said that it was an accident. He said that Nina was looking at a gun and it went off, and then it went off again, leaving a fatal shot to her head. Charles even had a gunshot wound to his hand. The initial investigation was a bit of a mess. The gun was a single-action revolver and would have had to be recocked to fire again, which didn't make sense with Charles's story. There was also some gunshot residue found on Charles's hand, but not conclusively on Nina's, even though he said she fired the gun. Initially, the death was ruled an accident after a coroner's inquest, but Nina's daughter Lisa never believed it was an accident. She pushed for a second look at the case. Lisa got a copy of the original police report and found many things suspicious. For instance, Nina was found in a sitting position with her feet tucked behind a chair, which to Lisa looked like she had been shot and tossed aside. Also, the phone cord was cut and the receiver was found in the wood stove. She also found out that the powder burns on Nina's scalp prove the gun was fired very close to her head. The case was reopened in the early 2000s. There was no physical evidence because it had all been destroyed after being ruled an accident. But then a reporter was interviewing Charles and he said, quote, "Well, she didn't shoot herself," end quote. That statement prompted another investigation. It came out that Charles's story kept changing. He eventually admitted to investigators that he stood over Nina, put the gun to her head, and pulled the trigger. He said he shot her because he felt threatened. He had been shot in the hand, but medical records contradicted Charles's claim that he was 6 feet away from Nina when the gun first fired. Charles Anderson was arrested 30 years after Nina's death. Because the crime happened in 1973, he was charged under the laws at the time and got a 1-year sentence for manslaughter as part of the plea agreement. It wasn't seen as fair since it was such a short amount of time. He even got credit for time served, so he was released on parole after only a few months. Even the judge said that everyone knew he murdered his wife and that the sentence wasn't fair. Lisa, Nina's daughter, has helped to change sentencing laws for violent offenders because of her mother's case.